MyFire or what?
MyFire is the language.
MyFire.
Yeah, we've gone back to MyFire.
So MyFire I use a lot for content, other stuff to help my students. There's also meetings. Can we still use the meeting through the MyFire platform?
Yes, you can, I mean, you
set
can.
that up and do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Because it will record.
It will. The only difference is with the tool in MyFire, it's only, the recording is only available for 14 days.
Okay, so then it just deletes after 14. Okay.
Right. You can download it, but the steps are not simple, and I would probably at that point, if you want to have access to it after 14 days, because as long as it's available, you can download it to your computer, and I can send you directions to how to do that. It's just
So
not
the
as
virtual
simple
classroom
as.
setup doesn't, it only holds it for 14 days? Okay, I need to tell my online course, my grad online, I use virtual classroom.
Right.
So it's only keeping it 14 days, I can't go back. All right, I think that's helpful
Yeah.
information. Thank you.
One of the things I would suggest also with, if you're doing these lecture dynamics is to have a process where they engage the lecture. Otherwise, they will just kind of, okay, just kind of let it roll, which they'll get something out of that, but I don't think they'll get what they need out of that. Yeah.
And Zoom will do that too. You can do a PowerPoint, you can do a video on Zoom, you can do a lot of things that
Yeah.
it's pretty simple. So if you've already decided to use Zoom and you're going in that direction, you know, kind of playing with it.
Yeah, and since you can hit a record and then go back and get it right.
I have just one suggestion, since I only have one suggestion, I'll share it here now. I use PowerPoint and I try to stay away from PowerPoint, but I do have PowerPoints for this particular course. And I also have, and deleted, I hate fill in the blanks, but a lot of students love to sit there and just, I know, it's hard for me to understand why that actually works.
I'll tell you why it helps.
It helps.
It
They
helps
do
us get
it.
the list.
I think it's kind of, but anyways, that's not, since we're being recorded, I'm just trying to facilitate. So one thing I think you could do if you're going to do the video on this, the voice, is to make sure the student has access to a document just like a PowerPoint, only without it all filled in. They then fill in the blanks, and you could ask them to print it out. They fill in the blanks, or by hand if you're really concerned that somebody doesn't start a little cottage industry on the side. And then just photo it and scan it and send it. You can have somebody set up a link or something in your content on your thing. That would be one way to accomplish, I think, what Zach's talking about. You know, oh, so they just turn it on and it's just rolling and they're not listening. It requires them. Secondly, they're hearing your voice. Thirdly, you could even have a space there for questions that you would like to discuss in the next session related to this. That could do some of what Zach's talking about as well. I think. I'm just trying to be real pragmatic, try to do this in a well way to get the information. I'm concerned also, as you were talking about, some of the concepts might be more difficult. And just because they hear you say it doesn't mean they're going to understand it. So I think this is if it's a virtual classroom and that's part of it, and then if you have a Google session as another, at least once a week, I think you can probably pull it off in a way that's beneficial for them.
Yeah.
So
And another thing is advanced here too is having in-lecture or post-lecture quizzes.
Yeah.
Quizzes are one of the best processes of it. And I'm switching to two different versions of it. One of them is a non-graded quiz where they can go to it. And then I'm moving from semester exams to weekly exams. And so they'll have an exam every single week that goes over the stuff, and I'm going to use the lockdown and hold it that way.
That's a good idea. Will you develop that through MyFire?
Yeah.
And I'm waiting to get, I'm sure we'll get the yes, but it hit me this morning. We need to get Provost's permission to edit our syllabi and how we weight the final grades to allow for changes for some sort of an assessment of learning and interaction. And so if we need to take some points away from one thing you're going to do that you're not going to do now to grade and to put weights on discussion forums or quizzes or even just showing up for the online live sessions, whatever you're doing, have some creativity, but assess what is going to bring the learning.
My syllabus always says that changes can be made at the discretion of the professor, but they haven't been these radical changes. They've been a point here and a point there, shift a program, not this radical shift.
Is there anything to be gained in trying to sort of maintain the structure of the classroom online at all? Or
That's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to treat it just like this go.
I thought that originally, but you know, this is kind of taking it in a different direction. I'm not sure. I'm just wondering. That's why I'm asking the question.
I just figured, look, we said we're going to still meet. They're still responsible for the time. I'm going to have a live class. We're going to do the best we can.
And that's legit.
And I might just have like, I was thinking about in the middle of my lectures just asking a question and then saying at the end of this, you know, respond to this question and email me. Then I know they were on and they have an hour, something like that, to respond, or maybe like by the end of the day or something like that. So I know. Then I thought I would actually also have them put in the header some bizarre thing like marshmallows or something. So I know that day they really heard it. I know it's crazy, but I thought, you know, just like change the word every day. I know they can share that too, but just to make it fun. And then I'm just going to keep my class.
Yeah, I think on Zoom, doesn't it sort of take attendance for you? I mean,
It can.
everybody who connects in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll all do that.
I did the same thing. I've already sent out an email and I said we're going to meet at the same time. Set aside time,
Yeah.
make sure you have a computer, Wi-Fi, whatever.
The reason that I'm not doing that is because I have some of my classes set up. I do a ton of online design and work, so it's easier for me to switch to more of a traditional online or a variation of it than it is the other way around, and that's the reason I'm.
Has anybody checked with their students to see if they're still on campus and have access to Wi-Fi and internet? And like, I know that we have phones and we do stuff, but we may have students who are running off of data who don't have hi-fi internet at home, or high-speed internet at home, who may not be able to meet asynchronously. You know, they may end up caring for family members who get sick. I'm a little concerned that in our efforts to keep everything as normal as possible, we maybe are not considering the abnormalcy of what is going on.
And it's probably more risk on our foundational core classes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Because they're saying that some of our athletes come from some pretty
yeah.
poor homes that they may have phone, but they probably don't have a computer, that
Yes.
their athletes come to the library here. So there is a chance you need to be flexible. I think there's a tension between wanting to give them the best learning experience possible, teach that way, but be flexible for those for whom they lose internet or don't have anything other than a phone and don't, like you said, even doing on come up with some sort of an alternate assignment, give them some books, something else. They can,
And I mean, I haven't heard this, but I would suggest that if one's out and they need to go someplace, don't go to Starbucks, go to a library.
Starbucks is
Because they'll
closed.
be Starbucks is closed, that is true. But a library will be the one that'll be less contact than any place else.
Are we assuming the libraries?
I was gonna say,
Well, that's the question.
Well,
I
They're
don't
still
know.
open now, they haven't made a decision, but
And
they've
again,
been
I'm-
talking about closing it.
I'm gonna do the same thing, I'm still just gonna run synchronous, and if a student has a big issue with bandwidth, like, I'm gonna case by case, because I can record it and then I can send it to them afterwards, like, they'll still be able to, I mean, if they don't have access to the internet, they're not gonna be able to do any of the remote education. So they're gonna have something, right? So I'm going to go ahead and run it, and if case by case, if I have a student who says, look, I don't have a computer, I'm gonna be like, hey, completely understandable, like, I'm gonna send you the link after, you know, so you can still watch it, and you can still be part, and I know, and I'll take that as as a proper excuse.
Yeah.
Because if we try to like find a way that's gonna work perfectly for every single student, we're probably not gonna find it. So rather case by case, working with students individually is gonna be much more helpful, I think.
One of the things that seems almost, not foolish, but why do you do that? Look at the picture on everything. It gives the students the feeling that they're still with you. And it's kind of like you probably have a news anchor that you like most, and you get to the point where you almost feel like you know them. They haven't a clue who you are, but you know them, and it's the same thing.
I just also want to point out for the virtual classroom tool in MyFire and like Google Meets, students can use a phone to call into the meeting. So maybe if they don't have a
Yes,
computer
they can.
internet, they can't. If you set it up, or it's in the virtual classroom. There's a button to invite external participants. If you select that button during the setup process, it'll provide some phone numbers for students calling. Google Meets, Google Hangouts has a phone number that you can call in as well.
I've used that a lot of times.
Yeah.
I haven't used it with the classroom, I use it for meetings.
So what do you have to click to do?
Yeah, so it's like it's pretty common.
You know what you have to click to ensure that they can get that?
It's when you turn on Google for which tool? Let me back up for a second.
Google Hangout.
Google Hangouts. So when I add on, when I create the meeting, usually I'm creating it from my calendar because I'm scheduling a meeting on my calendar. All I have to do is select add conferencing. And when I select add conferencing, it does it automatically.
So maybe it'll send out an invitation to go to this phone number. I'm just showing you what I'm doing, not because I expect you to do it, but because I've been doing this for a while. So, and I'm also writing a course. I'm writing an online course for the course that I'm teaching, so I'm using some of those same materials. And I do a lecture that includes text that I've written. That is my PowerPoint that I use in the traditional class. This is a 3-minute video that I found from an academic. That's the thing. One thing you find in these other pieces, finding them from academic sources. That deals with who William Paley is and the concept of the divine watchmaker. And so I have several of those going through various different things. There's on a card, etc. Here, I used this is from Big Bang Theory. And you know, with Big Bang Theory, I had to go through a lot of clips that were not so little dicey. Etc. So you can see how I worked that all the way through, but I use that as a standard. When I get to the end of it, I tell them what to do next, which I haven't gotten in this one yet, but in big bold red, I will say go to wherever it is and post something in it. You can also set it up, and I haven't done this yet, and I would suggest you not do this right away, but you can also set it up where they can only access one thing at a time. They cannot go to something else until they've accessed a certain file. So you may at one point do that. I'm not suggesting to do that. I just want to show it to you, which leads into what I did want to show, and that is there are a lot of really good sites in there. They give many lectures, particularly in religion. I'm sure it does in the other fields too, but this is the one that I focused on. So one is Seedbed. That's a holiness group that does an excellent job. Nottingham's Life Studies series. This one that I linked here is Life Study Theology. Nottingham's, though, are a little bit longer. They're more like 20 minutes usually. I guess the Europeans can stay with you longer. I don't know. If they think so. And this one, Sister Vasa, she is a Eastern nun who does lectures on historical figures, and she tries to make them funny, and I found them not very funny, but nonetheless, she gives good information. So there's stuff out like that, and so you may want to use that dynamic as well, pointing it to you can see how I did it in a one, but you can also simply have them go to MyFire, load it up there, and load these lectures in, and I can show you how. It's a little bit more complicated than just showing you how to do it here, but I can show you how to do it individually. So, okay, the last one is that I was going to do, and I don't have anything on that, was the idea of how to do group projects. And I've got one group project that I'm going, how in the world I'm going to do it, because everything that I do about it just closed down now. Here's the project. It's in church history. They're in groups of 3 to 5. And they have chosen their groups, and they are going to a particular church. This is in the class Reformation, a church of the Reformation or the post-Reformation. That's what the class is. And they go and talk to a pastor, a priest, regarding what they do in that church and how it fits with their historic framework. And so they have 8 or 10 questions there to take pictures, or to ask to take pictures, and some of them even take short video clips or recording clips in the worship services if they ask permission on doing things like that. And so the project is in 3 forms: is 1, setting it up; 1, interviewing the priest or pastor; 2, going to the worship service; 4, presenting in class. I was thinking about just canning it, because that's a pretty complicated piece to how we're doing it. And my students just about went wild, no, because they had all done well over 50% of this, and they were getting excited about it. So I'm going, how in the world do you do it? So what I have, I'm going to send out a note no later than tomorrow, I may even get it today, that I'm going to modify it by doing an interview by phone. You can either use your own Google Hangouts with the person, you set it up with the pastor priest in advance of how to work that. Don't go to a worship service, but nearly all of these, they have a church within that tradition that had either live streams or post streams it. And then they work together, even though they're in different places, to put their lecture together. And in this case, they do a voiceover PowerPoint that gives the presentation. I have scheduled on a calendar that it is the last week when we come back. But in my own head, I'm going to assume that that won't be available. And so that they would turn it in during that week, and we would alternately present it to each other. So that's how I'm doing that presentation. That's all I've got.
Okay. Thank you, Zach. What I suggest we do would be, if you need to go or you want to go to one of the other sessions, Feel free to go, but I've had some people ask, can we do sort of a strategy session, brainstorming, and Zach's resources he's given us have been hugely helpful in terms of thinking different ways of educating. I'll give you just a couple minutes of what my suggestions